Over the last few weeks, we have been discussing a path to happiness, one which you may not have seen before, one which you may have not discovered before. It has been my intention to share this path with you in the hope that you are able to achieve an unconditional happiness, which I am convinced is the ultimate goal of this path. So today we take another step forward on this journey as we explore the workings of the human mind, what happiness is all about, the happiness that we experience on a day-to-day basis. Is that the real deal? Or are we somehow being manipulated? Is there such a thing as unconditional happiness? In other words, could we be happy regardless of what happens around us? These are some of the questions that we seek answers to. Before we begin then, let us once again pay veneration to the Supremely Enlightened Lord Buddha, who's the teacher, the ultimate teacher, and whose doctrine, whose teaching today we have the good privilege of learning, studying, understanding, and realizing for ourselves. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. As a gentle reminder, may I take a brief moment to remind you that I continue to expect of you vigilance, diligence. As you listen to these talks, by which I mean, I want for you to be able to listen to these talks with undivided attention, because that is how you are able to get the most out of anything, not just listen to these talks. Whenever we do something important in our lives, to get the best out of it, it pays dividends to give it our undivided attention. Secondly, I would like for you to listen to them with trust. Trust that what you're listening to will bring you goodness, greatness, and hopefully the happiness that you seek in life. And finally, this is perhaps the most important thing, the most important element that I want from you, and that is to verify the things that you learn from these talks. Because then and only then will these words mean anything to you. Until then, it will just be someone told me so. But for it to be meaningful, for it to have its desired effect on your life, you must verify these in the lab of life. And what is this lab of life we have been referring to in our previous talks? Well, it is simply that you take these messages and you apply them into life. It's a lab because it's where you apply these principles, these teachings, these ideas and concepts, and see what results you get It's a lab, so it's safe to do so. And it's when you apply these principles into your life, you begin to realize whether they hold any value or not for yourself. So ultimately, it's every one for himself. One can only show another the path. Walking it and reaping the rewards is completely, solely down to each and every one. That is how I was taught by my teachers, and this is the same thing that I'd like to share with you today. So, having said that, let's continue where we left off last week. If you remember what we discussed last week, I think we had a very interesting discussion, if I may say so myself. We took a moment to analyze what goes in our minds. What is the process that goes in our minds when we watch a movie? And how we enjoy a movie. The steps involved. To briefly remind you the essence of what we talked about last week, let's see if you remember what the steps are. First, you need to be informed that there's a really good movie that is worth watching. And when these messages reach us, or reach you through usually advertising or perhaps word of mouth, this creates a deep want or a desire in your mind. Now you want to do it. What do you want to do? You want to watch the movie. You don't really know what you will be watching because that's the way it works, isn't it? So much so that actually you don't want anyone to spoil it for you. That's why you have spoiler alerts. See how we need to take a moment to understand why we treat ourselves the way we do. Why do we have such a thing called a spoiler alert? Why do we not like for other people to tell us what the plot is of a story? When you read a book, watch a movie, go to a play or whatever, why is it that we do not like for someone to ruin it for us or spoil it for us before we experience it for ourselves? Now you need to try and understand it. After all, that is what Buddhist philosophy is for. To realize, to understand why you do the things you do. I'm sure there'll be times in your life when you will react, respond in certain ways which you feel are completely irrational. Sometimes you'll find scratching your head, wondering why you reacted or responded to something the way you did. And most of those times, you will fail to find a reasonable answer, something that you can be happy with. Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of these talks is to help you find answers to those predicaments, to help you understand yourself, to help you understand why you behave in the ways that you do. So in some ways, you could consider this to be the psychology of existence, or of living, of life, the psychology of life. The study of how the mind works in its purest form. And again, it is my hope and intention to bring it to you in real simple terms, without any complications or convolutions, in language and terms and in lexicon that even a 6 or 7-year-old can understand. That is what I hope to do with these talks. Because I believe that if many people around the world are presented with this opportunity to understand how they work in college, at university, When we read books, we understand a lot about how the world around us works. But we invest very little time, don't we, in studying how we work. And I don't mean how the body works, not the anatomy or the physiology, but rather how we make decisions and why we make those decisions, how we are influenced in certain ways, and why sometimes we react and respond in what seem to be very irrational ways. We are baffled on those occasions. Wouldn't it be nice if we could understand why we behave in certain ways, and as a result of that, if somehow we can make better choices about our lives? Because better choices mean we move forward and in the direction of the happiness that we seek in our life. So, coming back to the point we were discussing, spoiler alerts. What's the big deal with spoiler alerts? Why don't people like them? Why is it that when you read a review on a website about a book or a movie or a play or something, there's always this warning, spoiler alert up ahead. So it gives you the opportunity to skip it. You see, you're going to be reading that book in a moment. You're going to be watching that film in a moment. So what difference does it make that you do not find out about it before you read the book? Isn't it simply just a matter of time? What difference does it make that you find out about it later as you watch the movie or read the book to finding about what the story is about right now? What is it that is ruined for you? Well, that is what we are trying to understand here. It is what we discussed last week. Or at least we began to discuss last week. So how does this enjoying a movie work? Once you really get your head around this, you will understand why there is such a thing as a spoiler alert and why people don't like it, or why even you don't like it when someone spoils it for you. So how does it work again? First, a desire or a want is created in the mind by using words that instigate this desire, this want, this deep void, that something's lacking for you, that there is something beautiful. We use this word quite a bit in our talks. Something beautiful, beauty of sight, beauty of sound, beauty of smell, taste and touch and so on we talked about. So when it is implanted in our minds, when we are indoctrinated that beauty exists in the outside world, so in this case a movie, now because beauty is our interpretation of pleasure, now we want it. Because what do we always seek? We always seek pleasure. Little do we know, though, that there are two kinds of happiness. One is conditional and one is unconditional. But we don't know at all about unconditional happiness. If you knew it, that's all you'd want. Through these talks, ultimately, that is what I intend to show you. How we can get ourselves to ultimate happiness, unconditional happiness. But before I get you there, I need for you to understand and realize for yourselves what the problem is with the current situation. Because there's no point in showing you greener pastures when you think there is nothing better than where you are right now. It is only when you realize that what you've got at hand is not worth at all what you thought it was, when you seek something else, when you seek an alternative. And when you start seeking an alternative, that is when I will present to you the alternative. That is unconditional happiness. That will happen eventually, that will happen gradually. Do not worry, do not fret. I promise you, as we proceed with these talks, you will begin to realize what unconditional happiness is. But let's get back to the point. What is this conditional happiness that we experience, this pleasure that we experience as we look for beauty in a sight, or in this case, a movie? So when this view, when this idea, when this concept, when this want or need or desire has been implanted into our minds. Now that is all we want. So that's what happens when you watch a trailer or when someone says there's this new movie, right? And now this creates a deep void in the mind. And I introduced a term last week, if you remember, this term vexation. A vexation. A vexation is what we feel when there is something we want and we begin to long for it. We just want it. So, when you watch a trailer, when you hear someone say something good and nice about this latest movie, and you want to watch it, now there's a vexation. There's a void in the mind. And you have all experienced this. This is nothing new to you. When an expectation has been created in the mind, this is what happens to you. Until that expectation has been fulfilled. So think about all sorts of examples now. It's not just when we talk about a movie, but say, for instance, someone suggests, hey, shall we get a takeaway tonight? What would you like? And you say, well, you know what? I'd really like I'd like a pizza. Shall we order a pizza? Cool. What pizza would you like? And so you give your preference, and now you place the order, and now you're waiting for the pizza delivery guy to turn up with your pizza. Go back in time, try and remember the last time this happened to you. And you were waiting for this delivery. As you browsed their website, and as you filled your cart with all the ingredients and the type of pizza you wanted and the sides and the drinks and all sorts, and then you punch in your cart details and you click the order button, and then you use the tracker to see how long it's going to take for the delivery guy to turn up. You keep going ahead, hitting F5, refresh, 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 come on. And you cheer him on, right? The pizza guy on the web page. They have this little icon, like the pizza guy with this pizza delivery bicycle and a pizza steaming hot. They're, come on, that's it, hurry up. And you keep hitting refresh, refresh, come on, right? So what is that sensation that you feel? There's something you want, and as yet you don't have it. That time between, that duration of time between when you want something to you acquiring it, that experience, that void that you experience in your mind, that feeling of unsatisfactoriness. Right? I think you know what I'm talking about. That feeling of unsatisfactoriness, that feeling of incompleteness, that urge that needs to be satisfied. I propose we call that vexation for the purpose of these talks. It's a word that you'll find in any good dictionary, and it's a feeling of unsatisfactoriness. Vexation. So what was the cause of vexation? The cause of vexation is this idea that is fed into the mind, like that something of beauty, something that is lovely, something that is wonderful, something that is pleasurable exists, and there is a chance, there is an opportunity for you to acquire it. So desire has now crept into the mind, desire for something, and now you want to acquire it. So when you want to acquire what you desire, but until that moment that you have acquired it, there is a time span. And in that time period, the feeling that you have in your mind, it's not a positive feeling, is it? You wouldn't want to feel like that forever and the rest of your life, would you? Would you? Are you sure? Let's play out this example. So you've ordered the pizza and now you're waiting for the delivery. Okay? Now you know that feeling of you're waiting for the delivery driver to turn up with your pizza. Okay, so you wait and it says delivery time, expected delivery time is in 45 minutes. Right, so you're sat down watching the clock, right? And now this is the time when you want that second clock to tick faster, right? You want those minutes to rush. Like every minute is your enemy, right? You want that 45 minutes to go in a flash. So why is that? Because you don't like that feeling, do you? When else might you have experienced this feeling? Christmas would be another example. Well, Christmas is coming, it's around the corner. So when it's Christmas Eve, right, and you see all those presents under the Christmas tree, especially if you don't know what your family has got for you, if you don't know what they've gotten for you, these presents are gift wrapped and they're under the Christmas tree, but you know it's for you, it's got your name on it. Now that feeling of wanting to find out what it is that they have got for you. Do you remember that feeling? So that 45 minutes as you wait for the pizza delivery, what if once you refresh, they say there's an update to your delivery time. It's not 45 minutes anymore, it's actually an hour. How do you feel? Do you feel, woohoo, that's wonderful. Now it's not 45 minutes, I can wait for an hour for my pizza to arrive. How do you feel? Do you feel good about that or do you feel bad about that? In very simple terms, do you feel good or do you feel bad? In other words, is that a positive feeling or is that a negative feeling? What if you hit refresh again? In 10 minutes later, you hit refresh again and now it says, well, the delivery will be with you in 1 hour and 15 minutes. So time seems to keep increasing. The time it's going to take for the delivery to arrive. How does that make you feel? I'm playing out this example with you because I'm asking you this question. This waiting game, waiting to acquire what you desire, right? Once that want has been planted in your mind, once the desire has been planted in your mind, once this vexation has arisen in your mind, is that a positive emotion? Do you like it? Do you wish to prolong it for as long as you possibly can? Or do you wish for you to be relieved of that as soon as possible? What do you think? Be honest with yourself. So if the delivery time keeps increasing, how does that make you feel? Meaning you have to wait longer. This void remains there for longer. How does that make you feel? Just think about it. Why is it that with commerce, and particularly e-commerce, the world is moving as fast as it possibly can to move to a position where things can be ordered and they can be delivered, right? Right from click of the button to knock on the door. Some popular names in the e-commerce industry, like the Amazons and whatnot, they're always investing their research and development teams. They're always trying to find new and innovative ways to make the customer wait for less time as they possibly can to deliver that which they have ordered. Why is that? Is that because you like the waiting game, or is that because you don't like the waiting game? So what about that Christmas? Christmas Eve, presents under the tree. Now when can you open those presents? Well, only on Christmas Day. After everyone in the family has got together, right? That's when you can open your Christmas presents. What if Christmas Day never came? If any of you have watched Groundhog Day, it was a very popular movie a while back. It was Christmas Eve every day. Imagine that. Presents under the tree. You know it's for you, but you can't open it. Why? Because you have to open it on Christmas Day. And every day from that day on is Christmas Eve. Would you like that feeling? Would you like that feeling? When someone says, hey, I've got a secret to tell you. And you say, okay, what is it? I'll tell you later. How does that make you feel? Your normal response would probably be, come on, don't do that. If you got something to tell me now. If you're not going to tell me now, why did you tell me you had something to tell me? Wouldn't you? Don't do that. That feeling, when you go through that experience, that is called vexation. That is what I refer to as vexation. Another example, let's say you've gone out for a meal with your mates and you've ordered some food, right? So everyone around the table has ordered different things, and the waiters brought your dish first. They brought your dish first, but, it's rude, isn't it? To start digging into it until others have received their orders. Now you have to wait. Imagine there's 10 of you. You've got your chicken noodles, but you've got to wait until the rest of the order arrives at the table before you start eating. Because it's good manners. And of course it is good manners. So the next item arrives. Now there's 8 more to go. Another 2 dishes arrive. 6 more to go. Now you start salivating. Your tummy starts rumbling. You just can't wait for it. You really want to dig into it, but you can't. Why? You got to wait. It's good table manners. You got to wait. That feeling as you wait for it, how does that make you feel? Do you like for that experience to be prolonged as much as possible? Or do you wish for that to be shortened as much as possible? My point being, that feeling, that emotion, is that a positive thing? Do you really enjoy it? Would you like for you to have more of that, or would you like to have less of that as possible? If possible, wouldn't you like to avoid it completely and completely remove it, get rid of it from your life? That is the feeling of vexation. What about when a movie ends on a cliffhanger? It comes to the climax of the scene, and then you're informed, there's a slide that says to be continued. It's like some movies. You'll watch it from start to end, and right before they show you the credits screen, or sometimes maybe just after, they'll give you a short clip that shows you what's going to come later in the second installment of this movie. What do they do when they do that? They create in your mind vexation. Because now you want to find out what happens next. Any good teledrama, particularly the one that has multiple episodes, each episode will end on a cliffhanger with a prompt for you to return and watch it the following day. Because what happens, folks, is it creates this vexation in the mind, and that vexation is a negative emotion. In other words, it's not a pleasant feeling. It's a very unpleasant feeling. It's a feeling devoid of happiness. It creates an urge, a longing, a yearning for something. But there's a promise of delivering, but no delivery. So what happens? It's a negative emotion. Now, here's the beauty of it. Once that has been created in the mind, what does the mind want next? When an expectation has been created in the mind, what do you want next? Come on, we all know the answer to that question. Think about a time when you're waiting for someone at the airport. You're waiting at the arrivals lounge. You're stood by the queue, where it's got the arrivals gate, and you're waiting for your friend or your loved one to walk through those doors, and you keep scanning each and every face, right? And the screen says that anytime now, those passengers should come through the arrivals, and you're waiting, and you're waiting, and you're waiting. You've been waiting for half an hour now, 45 minutes, an hour. How do you feel? And then say, you get a message to say, security alert, there's been some situation that has developed, and there's going to be a delay in those passengers arriving at the arrivals gate. How does that make you feel? Let's imagine you have no problem about their security. They're safe, they're all right, no problem. But now you have to wait. How does that make you feel? Is that a positive feeling or is that a negative feeling? Imagine again, say, when you're watching a game of football or cricket, tennis, badminton, whatever. I've particularly seen this with friends of mine from when I was a lay person, when they watched football. A lot of friends who were footy fans, they'd be on the edge of their seats, right, as their favorite player runs towards the goal and kicking the ball. Now imagine, just as they raise their leg to kick that ball, there's a power cut. Or someone, just to play a prank, comes and switches off the telly. How does that make